Welcome to the Mindful Movement series with First Ascents. My name is Tara with Love Yoga, and my First Ascents nickname is Sprinkles. I got involved with First Ascents when I volunteered as camp mom at a trip in Estes Park for rock climbing back in 2018, and I was a caregiver in my experience with cancer. Today I am actually here with Katniss, and she is going to tell you a little bit about herself. So I'll introduce her now.
Yeah, hi, my name is Angelina. My FD name is Katniss. I first got involved with First Ascents in 2015. I went on a program as an oncology participant and fell in love with the community and everything about FD and stayed involved and convinced them to hire me and became staff 3.5 years ago. So I work on the programs team, and I have been NED for 8 years now. I just celebrated my cancer anniversary last month. So I'm really excited to be here.
Yay! We are excited you're here too, and I love that you now work for First Ascents as well. It's very exciting about your cancer anniversary. So Katniss is actually going to be helping us with our mindful movement and mobility class today. And when we were talking before class, you had told me some things about yoga, that you did yoga during treatment a little bit and just kind of rolled out your mat and did what feels good to you. And that's going to be a big part of this class, is feeling into your body and knowing what you want to do. And even if it's a little different than what we're showing you, we'll give you lots of options. That's okay. And to be gracious and forgiving with yourself, especially if you're going through treatment, but just in life in general, like releasing any judgments and any pressure on ourselves, because really yoga is just all about a practice of mindfulness. And so what is mindfulness? That's our big buzzword here. It just means that we're paying attention on purpose in the present moment. And the big thing is without judgment. So whatever you're noticing that pops up for you, it's okay, just let it be. And that could be emotions, it could be feelings, it could be stuff that's going on in your body. We also use mindfulness when we're out on adventure, just to be present with what is, to be aware of our surroundings, enjoying nature, enjoying the community, especially at like a First Ascents program. And why do we practice this? As I mentioned, coming into the present moment is super important, because we're not worried about the future, and we're not thinking about the past or dwelling on that. It's just the right here and the now, which is usually quite manageable. So when we practice mindfulness, it brings us into more of a sense of grounding. Sometimes, and I don't know if this happened to you when you were going through treatment, but medical stress, ongoing stress at work, or when you're going through treatments like cancer, can feel a little disassociated from your body and like disconnected. There's a numbness that happens, and I feel like that can make us not in tune with how we're like showing up, or like physical sensations, or we might not understand our emotions. Did that
and like the trust with your own body and like the physical and mental space of that.
Exactly. So that is just something to be considering, that mindfulness is a way to connect us to ourselves. And so we do practice mindfulness through yoga, and that's not just movement, but it's breath work, it's meditation, and the mindful movements that we put ourselves through on the mat. All right, we'll get started. We are going to use these straps here, and we're going to put them around just our rib cage. So you can take a moment, and if you're at home and you don't have something like this yoga strap, then you can use a belt. You can also just tie something. You just want to have some resistance. And so since we have these yoga straps, we're going to thread it through. I might have mine on backwards here. There we go. Takes a minute. This is a lesson in mindfulness in and of itself, right? Just learning how to put a yoga strap on. It's okay if it's a little twisted. You're mostly just wanting it to get the resistance around the rib cage, not too tight, Not too loose, just right. And so it's not slipping down. And let's go ahead and also just cross our legs the opposite way since we've been sitting for a little bit. All right, so feeling that strap, we're going to just close down the eyes. And first check in with your physical body. Notice how you're showing up. Where you may be holding some tension. I know that you had mentioned that you had some stuff going on in your shoulder, and so just noticing if you still feel that right now. And then start to notice where you feel the most sense of grounding in your body. Most likely it's towards your sit bones. You can do this first part also sitting in a chair with your feet flat on the floor. So if sitting crisscross is not comfortable, I would recommend just a chair, nice straight spine. And go ahead and start to breathe in and out a little more intentionally. Notice how the breath is moving through your body. And is it flowing nice and smoothly, or do you notice that it could be a little bit choppy or shallow? And we'll start to bring awareness towards the strap. And as you breathe in, feel your rib cage expand into the strap, forward and back. And then as you exhale, you'll feel it release and there's less pressure from the strap. Do that a few times. So as you inhale, press forward and back, and let it go. And one more, just like that. Now we're going to try to, as you inhale, press forward, back, as well as out a little. So the rib cage is going to extend in a 360-degree range of motion. So inhale forward, press back, out to both sides, and then release. And do that a few more times. Pressing forward, back, and out. Nice expansion and release. And so we're activating our diaphragm when we do this, and it helps us to engage other parts of the torso so the breath is not stuck in the chest. And most likely, you're going to start to notice that maybe it's not symmetrical. Maybe you're pressing more forward into the front left rib and the back right rib. Or maybe it's hard to press into the outer ribs. Do you notice anything like that, Katniss?
Yeah, I definitely feel more here and in the back, and then kind of feel like the opposite, like less pressure here.
Yeah, so that's very, very common. And so what I want you to do with the next 3 breaths is to try to work into the opposite that you're not feeling. So you're gonna really try to press into the front right and the back left to even it out, okay? And at home, you'll kind of be doing whatever makes sense for you. So whatever you're not feeling naturally, see if you can go into those inner depths a little further. That's mindfulness, just tuning in. There's no judgment. Doesn't really matter why it's happening. We're just trying to massage the breath completely around in a 360-degree circle. And the last 3 breaths we take, you'll say to yourself, I am breathing in as you inhale. I am breathing out as you exhale. And sometimes it's just this simple mantra or affirmation that can bring you into the present moment. Now that you know how to activate more of the inner part of your torso, you can say this affirmation, even if you don't have the strap on your body. You can breathe deeply and mindfully anytime. All right, good job. So we'll go ahead and release the strap. We're gonna keep it close because we'll use it again in a minute. And did you notice anything about what happened to the thoughts in your mind when you started to breathe more intentionally?
Just more awareness and like quieting of, kind of forgot the surroundings quite a bit.
Yeah.
I just realized like some shakiness or some, tightness, and just realized how I felt today.
Yeah, right, because we forget all the other things, and so often our mind takes over and those thoughts just become like, we think we're being mindful if we notice them, but they sort of just run away with our everything. And so when we tune out the thoughts and we focus on our breath, it brings us into the present moment, we feel our body more, and that's mindfulness. So good job. All right, let's go ahead and we'll start to just move into putting hands on your knees, and we'll take these are called Sufi rolls. Inhale as you come forward, and then roll over to your right, good, and then back, scooping belly in, and then rolling around to the other side and forward. We'll do that a few times. So you're going for, again, that 360-degree big motion. And so this can be as big or small as feels good in your body. We'll do one more and then we'll switch directions. So as you come forward this time, take an inhale, maybe smile, and exhale around and back, good, and then other side. And so we're just warming up the spine right now. This is also great for digestion. Oftentimes when we're stressed or going through any sort of medical treatments, digestion can get a little imbalanced. So we're just massaging insides, and we'll come forward here, and we're gonna just bring the spine straight but continue these circles up to the neck. So we'll just start to roll the neck, dropping one ear to the shoulder, dropping the chin through center, and then stretching the other side. And do that a few more times. You can even kind of roll forward and back, whatever feels good to you here, just tuning into your body. And also we'll start to move into a complete circle. So coming back to center and gazing forward, lengthening the spine. We'll look over to the left, then inhale as you look up and maybe just part your teeth a little bit. Exhale as you look over to the right and down, and do that again. So nice big circle, opening the mouth as you look to the ceiling, just to protect the back of the neck. And all the way around, and then we'll switch directions. And just start to notice here if like one direction feels different. Like this one, I feel a kink in my back of my neck when I move this way. So very normal to have one side that maybe feels a little different.
A lot of tightness.
Yeah, right? Most of us have neck tension in general, so good. We're gonna go ahead and continue moving with this strap, and I like to hold the metal piece so that it doesn't like clank around. So if you have a belt at home, same thing, hold the buckle. And we're just gonna bring this arms all the way up, and let me know if this hurts your shoulder at all, okay? So from here, we're gonna start by plugging down into the sit bones, inhaling, lift up, and then as you exhale, you're gonna side bend over to the left and open up the right side body, gazing under the right arm. And we'll press into the sit bones, lift high, and then over to the other side, gazing under the other arm. Good. So opening those side bodies back up. And then we'll go one more time to each side. Maybe you go a little deeper, but plugging down into both sit bones, staying nice and balanced. If they start to come off the ground, or one does, press that down. So having mindfulness in your roots always. Back to center. And this is the part we're gonna try to get some circles. So you might take the grip a little wider, and it can go as wide as you want. We're gonna start to move the arms sort of behind, but you can go as, like, it might just go a little ways. You may be able to bring it down.
Yeah, going wider helps a lot.
Yeah, the wider you go with the strap, the more comfortable it will be. So there's no need to keep it, and then come back up through center, and then we'll go back again, exhaling. Good, and then inhaling back up, and maybe down in front this time, and we'll do one more of those. So up to the sky, inhale, and exhale back behind. So we're getting some good shoulder circles here. Back through center. And we'll go ahead and put the straps back here. We won't need them yet for a while. And let's go ahead and just shake the legs out. And we'll come into a few, just like pointing the toes forward and then bringing them back. So moving the ankles and then moving into some circles here in a moment. So we opened up shoulders and neck. We're gonna get into all these like micro openings first, and then more of the macro, getting into bigger muscles. So then moving into the ankles, we'll bring them in circles. And noticing here, like, you know, we're on our feet all the time, and sometimes one of the ankles might feel a little stickier than the others. We'll switch and go the opposite way.
Nice crack.
Yeah, snap, crackles, and pops for sure. I know, I always feel like it's a good thing when I get a crack out of my ankle. Because there's movement. Motion is lotion. Okay, awesome. Let's go ahead and keep one leg straight, and the other is going to be bent in. And then we're going to square off to the straight leg. Inhale, sweep the arms up, reaching tall. And as you exhale, reach forward and down. And so we're just going to gently pulse here. Inhale, lengthen the spine and look forward, and then exhale, release down. And so that gentle pulsing with the breath keeps us present in the pose, so we're not just hanging out here, you know, checking out and letting the mind start thinking about what's coming next in the day or what you're gonna have for lunch or something. So staying present in the pose, feeling the hamstring stretch and releasing further with your breath. And we'll start to slowly rise back up. And we'll take the other leg straight, tucking the other knee in and squaring back off. And then inhaling, sweeping up, and exhaling, releasing down. And same thing, inhaling to pulse up, to lengthen, exhale to release. And so it's more about keeping the spine straight than trying to kind of round here. Feeling into the hamstring stretch. We'll be coming into the standing pose that's similar to this later, tree pose. I know you said that you liked that one. Yeah. Then we'll slowly start to come back up from here. And once again, just shake out the legs, and then we'll start to come to a tabletop. So tabletop, face me, and then we'll put the blanket under the knees. I think that's always nice to cushion it a little bit, and stack shoulders over wrists, hips over knees. So we're making lots of 90-degree angles. And we'll start with some cat-cows. So as you inhale, just dip the belly and bring your gaze forward. And exhale, really press down into your hands, and then round your spine, tucking chin to chest. And do that a few more times. So inhaling, come into our cat or cow pose, and then exhaling to cat, really rounding, pressing down. And so here you can continue in this linear type motion, or sometimes I say just choose your own adventure, and you can kind of circle your hips, circle the neck, or do what feels good in your body, because we don't always move in linear motions in life, and sometimes we need to just kind of get into the nooks and the crannies and feel into the body. And then from here, we'll start to come back to a neutral spine and just slide the right foot back. And I like to rock forward and back a few times because that gets into a calf stretch. And we're going to bring some awareness into balance. So as you come into neutral, make sure your hips are nice and even. Draw the belly in to activate your core and lift the right leg up and act as though you're sort of pressing that heel towards the back wall. Nice. Okay. From here you can stay. You can also keep your toes on the floor. And then the opposite arm is going to rise up. So you're reaching forward as you kick back and evening out your hips. And take a few mindful breaths here. Inhaling to reach and kick. Exhaling, soften a little. You got this. We'll do two more breaths. So we're keeping our balance, we're keeping core engagement, and we're noticing how that feels and shows up in the body. We'll bring the hand and knee down. Good job. And take a few cat-cows to realign. And as we do the other side, you might notice that it feels a little different. So you'll just let me know how it is.
And the foot's flexed, or is it pointed?
Yeah, it's flexed. So it's like you're pressing your heel to the back wall.
Okay.
So we'll bring the toes back on the left side, rock forward and back. And so again, toes can stay on the ground and you can just bring fingers forward, or you start to lift the back heel, pressing, and then right arm comes up. And I'm gonna have you breathe, even yourself out, and I'm gonna show how you could do this on your back. You can actually bring one opposite straight arm to opposite straight leg. And you still get that core activation here. So that is possible if it's not comfortable on your hands and knees. All right, one more breath here, and come back to neutral. And how did that feel for you?
That was good. It feels like a lengthening.
Lengthening, yeah, it does. And you get core engagement and, balance and strength kind of all in one. So we're gonna be back on our heels and take your toes and kind of spread them out. And this is probably something you don't do very often. It's called fire toes for a reason. So we're engaging, we're opening the toes, opening the feet here, and just start to kind of like settle in and just breathe into it. We're gonna bring our hands out in front and tuck the thumbs in and take a few wrist circles. So just engaging the wrists and opening them. We were just on them for a little bit, so trying to release any wrists. And probably ready to get off of those feet. So we're gonna rock forward and sort of tap out the tops. It feels much better. Yeah. And let's just take the fingertips towards us, and we're gonna stretch into the forearms. This is really good if you've been rock climbing. The more you sit back, the more you stretch into the forearms. And then also backs of the hands down. You can inhale the fingertips inward and exhale, release. So really a lot of, even if you were kayaking or rock climbing, the adventure activities that First Ascents takes you on involves a lot of like using your hands and wrists. So just releasing them is always helpful. All right, so from here, let's go ahead and just walk the fingertips forward. And we're gonna come into puppy pose. So just start to bring your head down in between the arms. And you can always take a block to put underneath your head or a pillow. But you're getting some length into the arms and feeling into the shoulders. It might be, how does that feel with your shoulders? Is it intense for you?
That's actually not too bad.
Okay, great.
Good stretch.
It's a similar stretch as you're gonna get when you're in downward dog. And so from here, you're gonna have the option to come up and either settle into a child's pose, which means hips come back, and then you extend into more of a resting pose, or you can come into a downward dog. So you can take a few minutes, and downward dog, I'll cue you how to get into that, and then I'm gonna show a wall version of it as well. So from hands and knees, you just start to lift the sit bones up to the sky, and keeping the knees bent, releasing the head between the hands. And then you start to pedal out one leg and then the other. So I'm gonna come check you out. Looking good. So the hamstrings can be really tight, and it's okay to keep the knees bent. Maybe they don't ever straighten, but you're really going for that engagement in the shoulders. So drop the head just a little. Yeah, there you go. So she's keeping her head between her shoulders. And then this activation is similar to puppy pose, even if the hamstrings are tight. You can also do this over at a wall. Hands come to the wall, head between them. So if you get dizzy when you're in downward dog, because head is below the heart, you can do it this way. Or even with a chair, similar to that. All right, go ahead and come down to a child's pose, Katniss, and ground down for a moment. Releasing tension, coming back into a steady breath. If we're in downward dog, sometimes the breath gets a little more activated, so just reconnecting, remembering why we're here, to cultivate mindfulness in our body and our breath. All right, and we'll start to come up to hands and knees, and go ahead and bring your right leg forward. So you're gonna put it between your hands, and it's gonna be in a low lunge, and start to rise up, hands to hips, and even out. Good. And from here, you can always go a little deeper by walking your front foot forward. Depends on how deep you want to get into your hip flexor. It's more important to stay actively engaged with the core drawn in and the spine straight than to sink into a pose ever. So keeping nice in alignment, and then arms can swim up overhead. Reaching tall through the fingertips, pressing down into your feet. A nice steady breath here. Good. And we'll take one more breath. And I like how you're pulsing a little, because that feels good when you move a little with your breath, right? Yeah.
Hip flexors, I feel like get tight when I hike a lot.
Yeah.
Feels really good. Yeah.
And you did just get back from a big adventure, so you've done a lot of hiking. Exactly. Pretty much rock climbing too. You get all crunched up when you're sitting in a kayak, or so it's really good to get into the hip flexors. Then we'll come back up, and we're gonna now come into warrior two. So you can bring your hands down and lift the back knee, spin the back heel flat, and rise up. I'm gonna show from here. I would just spin my foot back and come into more of a grounded version. And so this is totally possible. It's also possible in a chair. So I'm gonna show that. And just hold steady for a moment. We're gonna be here for a little while. In a chair, you can be actually seated and still be in this pose. Now really feel into your feet. You're looking really good. And as you're in your warrior two, I want you to think about bringing your hands together as you inhale, and then exhaling, lengthening your arms out and looking over the front fingers. Good. And do that a few more times. Inhaling and exhaling. And now as you're moving your hands, I want you to think about your feet as well. So bring attention to your roots. And next time you inhale, think about moving your heel almost towards your inner arch. And then exhale, press down into both feet equally, especially outer edges. Okay, and then inhale. It's like you're more isometrically moving, but you're not really moving your feet. But can you feel that engagement? Mm-hmm. So you get more like inner thigh activation. Yeah. So it just brings more intentionality to the pose. Okay, good. And we'll even back out. You're probably ready to take a break here. And so then you're just gonna turn your toes to the front of the mat and come into a forward fold, a wide leg forward fold. And you could always use some sort of prop here and stay more at a flat back. You've got some good flexibility. Hands are on the ground. And just release your head and neck for a moment. Feel into both hamstrings equally. Good. And then we're going to turn to the other side. So you're going to move towards the other wall and drop into the low lunge first, okay? And so, good. And I'm gonna be not watching you, so I trust you now. And as you rise up, you're grounding down, lifting up through the fingers, and you know where we're going with this. So starting to move your front foot forward.
You shouldn't have trusted me.
No? That's okay. You've got this. I know it. And you're just gonna kind of move into that pulsing motion, feeling into the hip flexor, engaging the core, lifting up through the fingers. And we're gonna start to move into warrior two again. So you'll bring your hands down, press up into the back knee, spin that back heel flat, rise up, and I'm just gonna swing my heel behind, coming into a grounded version. And so on this side, we're gonna start by inhaling, bringing the hands up overhead to touch, yeah. And then exhale, press them down, good. So it's like an inhale, palms touch like a mountain peak. Exhale, press them down. And you may even wanna straighten your front leg as you come up. You can pulse with that and then come back into the bend of the knee. We'll do one more of those. And then we'll try the same as before, where we inhale, hands come together to touch in the middle, and then exhale back out. And noticing as the hands come together, if you can feel that subtle engagement of the heel moving in towards your arch as well. So it's activation in your inner thighs. You're really feeling the grounding in your feet and opening up with the breath. Nice work. One more time. And then evening back out. And just turn to a forward fold again towards the front of your mat and releasing head and neck. So it's sort of like your resting pose. And then we'll start to slowly roll back up to standing. We can move our blankets out of the way now. And I have a ball. If you're at home, a tennis ball is probably gonna work best for this. We actually forgot our ball, so this is a lacrosse ball. I don't recommend using a lacrosse ball, but Angelina is gonna show you how to roll her foot, and she's gonna just put her heel on the ball and kind of roll forward and back a few times. You can even, if you have a tennis ball or a squishy ball, you can kind of press up and down a few times. But you're getting some engagement in your foot when you do this, and it starts to fire the nerves down there. And so after you do that foot, you can do the other foot. And yeah, it's hard to balance, isn't it? Especially when you're trying to roll the other side. That takes mindfulness. And then kind of bringing your foot back down to the mat, and I'll move the ball out of the way. And I just want you to come into Tadasana or mountain pose, facing the front, and feel your feet. And do you notice that maybe you feel a little more engagement in the feet than you would have before rolling them?
Yeah, definitely more like awareness of different areas of the foot.
Exactly, yeah. That awareness. And so that's always good to do. Like I sometimes will do it before I go on a walk or a hike or a run, because it reminds me to like feel my feet.
I like that.
Yeah, so it keeps you a little more balanced as you're doing those things. Now just start to feel into your body. Feet are about hip width distance apart or a little more. And we want to feel the roots like plugging into the earth. Always starting with a grounded perspective, then rising up, feeling a lift and lengthen in the torso, lifting up through the shoulders, shrugging them up and back, gentle engagement in the core, and then lifting up through the crown of the head. And the gaze can be soft, or you can look at just one focal point, close down the eyes. Does affect your balance a little bit, but just feel tall and strong in this mountain pose. And we do have a first ascents mindful moment that is called the mindful mountain that teaches how to really stack into this pose correctly. So I encourage you to try that video. But from this mindful place, we're going to do a few movements. So go ahead and just bend your knees from here. Good. And we're going to sit back into the heels. And then start to bring the arms out in front. And so reaching forward and then sitting back. So we're in chair pose. And I like to keep the feet, they could even come in a little bit, but more hip width distance than completely together, because most of us have our hips are a little bit wider than this. So we want to stay, nice and grounded in this pose, and a slight tuck of the pelvis. So you may notice that you draw it under and then sit a little deeper. It's also known as awkward pose, but we're coming into a flow. Inhaling, arms forward. Exhaling, they swim back and reach behind. Good job. Inhaling, reaching forward. Exhale, pressing into the feet as your arms come behind you. And then we'll do one more time. Inhale, reaching forward. And exhale, behind. And then we'll press into the feet. Inhale, arms sweep up, reaching tall. And we'll let them come down by our sides. All right, coming into our peak pose, which is tree. I know it's your favorite. So I'm gonna show how to do it at the wall with a block, and Angelina or Katniss can show how to do it on her mat, so you can face forward. And we'll just go ahead and start with your left leg being the standing leg. Okay, and with the right leg, you're gonna just bend the knee and open it up, the hip. And then from here, start to slide the foot as high as comfortable. So she's going above her knee, and I'm gonna stay below my knee, actually using this block as a kickstand. And I have the wall as support. The most important part is really feeling a sense of grounding, pressing down like you're growing your roots into the ground, and then lifting from there. So when you feel comfortable, you could bring hands to heart center. You could start to raise your arms up overhead. You could grow your tree to any shape. Branches could kind of shift in the wind. You could close your eyes if this feels easy to you, which actually really is hard. But then breathing for balance, a few mindful inhales and exhales, hands back to heart, good. And then we'll switch sides, so bringing the foot down, maybe just rocking side to side. Yeah. And then grounding into the right foot and bending left knee, opening up the hip, and then sliding the foot up as high as is comfortable for you. I'm gonna use my kickstand and the wall. Good. Breathing mindfully, finding that focal point that is something that's not moving, preferably. Good. One more breath here. You can grow the tree if you'd like. You can keep your arms at heart center and slowly starting to come back down. Both feet on the ground. Now, the counter pose to this, since we just opened up the hip this way, is to stretch into the outer hip. And we're gonna do this in two ways. So if we're in chair, we can take a standing figure four, which looks a little like this, or we can take a seated figure four. So she's gonna maybe show standing against the wall. It would look like this, or literally in a chair. You could be sitting, stretching into the outer hip, and this would be it sitting down. So hands are behind you, chest is lifted, good, few mindful breaths. And then we'll go ahead and bring your foot down, Good. Maybe lift up, arms overhead, straighten up tall. Good. And then come back down into a chair on the other side. So I'll switch my legs from a seated position. And do you notice how this is stretching into the opposite part of your hip instead of the outer side? So we're just always mindful in yoga that when we stretch one way, we want to stretch the other way too. It's known as a counter pose. Very good. And then we'll slowly start to bring your foot down. And you can come into a standing forward fold from there. I'm going to do a seated forward fold, and either is totally fine. So because we were nice and straight and lifted, we're starting to counter pose with the forward fold, and that starts to bring the energy down, start to down regulate the body and the nervous system, and gradually start to make our way onto the mat. So from there you can come down onto your back. Good. And from here, go ahead and just like shimmy your way down however's comfortable. Keep those knees bent, feet pressing down on the floor, and press into your feet, press into your hands, and lift the hips up. So you're gonna come into a gentle bridge. And as she's doing that, I'm gonna stick this block between your knees. See how that feels to press into it. Do you notice a difference in engagement? Yeah. Yeah, so you're drawing those inner thighs together, really pressing down. Take one more breath here. Good, and then you're gonna slowly roll the spine down, keeping the block engaged, inner thighs engaged. Nice work. And then draw your knees in towards your chest, coming into, this is known as seed pose. And thinking of that intention of mindfulness we've been cultivating, maybe a few rolls of your lower back or your sacrum in both directions. And just lift your chin up towards your knees and take an inhale, and you're going to squeeze yourself into the smallest ball that you can. And as you exhale, you're going to release, legs come down to the mat, arms come wide. I'm going to have you lay there in Shavasana. I'm going to walk you through what's called a progressive muscular deactivation. And so it's just going to relax your body slowly, muscle by muscle. So starting to feel a sense of relaxation and grounding on the mat. And see how it feels to inhale and curl your toes. Good. And exhale, release. And then we'll inhale, sort of flex your toes towards you, lifting even the heels a little. And as you exhale, release your heels to the ground and just let your ankles splay open wide. Walking up your legs. You may inhale, you'll keep your legs straight, yeah. Just inhale, like sort of flex into your calves a little bit. And then exhale, release them. And then feel your calves settling on the mat, feeling those ankles splay open wide. And then you'll start to feel into your quads, and you might inhale and flex the quads, squeezing them, and exhale, release. Moving up towards your hips and your glutes. Inhale, squeeze the glutes, and you may rise up a little, and exhale, release them down. And now just pay attention to how the lower half of your body feels. You may notice that it feels a little more grounded, a little more settled. By contracting and releasing muscles, it allows the body to completely relax that part. So we'll move into the upper half. Draw attention towards your fingers, and as you inhale, you'll curl them just like you did your toes, making a fist. And then exhale, release. Good, and just letting them Open up, and then as you inhale, you'll start to bend your wrists, sort of like flexing into the forearms a little bit, lifting the fingers up, and then exhale, release the wrists down. And then moving up towards more the biceps and triceps, you may kind of straighten the arms, flexing through the triceps on the inhale, exhale to release. And then inhale, flex into the biceps by bending your elbows and curling towards you. Good. And exhale, release. And then drawing attention towards your torso. Inhale, flex your abdominals, squeezing into that part of your body. And then as you exhale, just let it settle, feeling your spine nice and grounded. Moving attention towards your shoulders. Inhale, you might shrug them up towards your ears and sort of let them fall down your back a little, letting them completely surrender, feeling a heaviness there. And then maybe a gentle rocking of your head side to side, releasing tension in the neck. Moving awareness towards your facial features, where you might squinch your eyes, squinch your nose, and really clench your jaw so everything's tight as you inhale. And then exhale, release everything, especially that jaw, maybe parting your teeth and allowing your tongue to settle on the palate of your mouth. And if you feel comfortable, just stay here for a few more moments. If you're not sure, you might decide to clench your whole body as much as you possibly can as you inhale. And then exhale, release everything. And that might help you completely settle down. Looks like Angelina is relaxed enough as it is. And so I invite you to stay in Shavasana as long as you'd like. You can actually, this pose can be as long, like 5 minutes, 10 minutes, even 20 minutes, depending on what your body needs. It's really how you integrate the whole practice and allow everything to reset. It's like a renewal when you come out of this pose. We're going to start to move fingers and wrists and toes and ankles, and just start to stretch the body and whatever feels good. Maybe arms come up overhead. Breathing organically like you're waking up in the morning. And just start to bend your knees and roll onto one side, and eventually coming up to seated position. And we'll bring our palms together at heart center and close down the eyes for a few more mindful breaths. Again, just breathing in and out. I am breathing in. I am breathing out. One more time. I am breathing in. I am breathing out. And then check in with yourself, your body, your mind, and if anything has changed just in your emotions or your heart. Thank you for joining us. How do you feel?
I should like quieter, more still.
Yeah.
And I felt like I melted a little bit with the tension release.
Oh, good. Yeah, that's kind of the nice part about doing our resting pose like that, is sometimes it's hard to find the stillness, but when you clench and then release, it brings us into relaxation. So awesome. Well, thank you so much for being my helper today, and we hope you enjoyed it at home too. Namaste.